The strange fuel loss Captain Ross had been traveling alone through deep space for 22 days. His small cargo ship, the Star Wanderer, drifted quietly between the glowing stars, carrying supplies to the far mining colonies everything had been normal until the warning light blinked red on his control panel. It was the fuel indicator, and it showed a sudden drop in reserves. Ross frowned, tapping the screen, thinking it might be a glitch, but after checking twice, the numbers were real. The ship was losing fuel much faster than expected. He leaned back in his chair, trying to understand. There were no signs of leaks, no alarms from the engine room, and no strange readings from the sensors. Still, the loss continued, slow but steady, every hour. A little more of the Blue Star fuel was disappearing. This wasn't just a minor problem. If it kept going, he wouldn't have enough to reach the next station. Ross grabbed his toolkit and climbed down into the lower decks. He moved through narrow corridors, the hum of the ship's core filling his ears. The fuel tanks were sealed tight, the pipes were secure, and there was no smell of burning metal, yet something was off. The air had a faint sweet scent, not sharp like the fuel itself, but lighter, almost like flowers. Ross had never smelled anything like it on his ship before. He decided to run a full inspection. For hours, he checked every valve, every hose, every storage compartment. Nothing. It was like the fuel was just vanishing. He returned to the control deck, rubbing his eyes. The computer log showed that the most fuel loss happened late at night. When he was asleep, that was strange. As if someone or something was taking it while he rested. The next night, Ross stayed awake. He dimmed the lights and waited, listening carefully for a long time. There was only the usual hum of the ship and the soft creak of metal in the cold vacuum of space. Then, faintly he heard it, a low humming sound, like a soft tune drifting through the air vents. It was coming from the direction of Cargo Bay 4. Ross grabbed a small flashlight and moved quietly. His boots made no sound on the metal floor. His breath slow and careful. As he got closer, the humming stopped. Silence filled the corridor. He reached the door to Cargo Bay 4 and pressed the panel to slide it open. The smell of the sweet, strange scent grew stronger. Inside, shadows stretched between the crates and containers. Something moved, quick and smooth, between two stacks of cargo. Ross caught the flicker of motion, not the stiff movements of a robot, but something alive. He stepped inside, the flashlight beam cutting through the dark. "Who's there?" he called, his voice firm but calm. No answer, only the sound of soft footsteps retreating deeper into the bay. Ross followed slowly, his heart beating faster. Then he saw it, a small figure crouched near the fuel line. At first, he thought it was a child, but then the light caught her face. His breath caught in his throat. She was not human. Her skin had a faint shimmer, reflecting the light like water. Her hair was silver, glowing faintly in the darkness, and her large eyes were a bright violet. She was holding a small tube from the fuel line, sipping the glowing blue liquid as if it were water. When she noticed him, she didn't run. She just looked at him with calm, curious eyes. Then she spoke, her voice soft and clear. "It tastes like home," she said. Ross stood frozen, the words echoing in his mind. Before he could speak, the alien girl placed the tube back and stepped away. In the blink of an eye, she moved with impossible speed, slipping into the shadows and vanishing from sight. Ross stood alone in the cargo bay, the scent of the strange sweetness still in the air. He looked down at the fuel line, a single drop of the glowing liquid falling to the floor. Something told him this was only the beginning, and whatever she was, stowaway, thief, or something more, she had just changed his quiet journey into something far more dangerous. The first sight, Ross couldn't sleep that night. The image of the alien girl kept flashing in his mind, her silver hair glowing in the dark, her violet eyes looking straight into his, and the way she had calmly sipped the ship's fuel, like it was a sweet drink. He had seen strange things in space before, but nothing like her. he kept asking himself. Who was she? How did she get on my ship? And why in all the stars was she drinking my fuel? By morning, he decided he needed answers. He sealed the cargo bay doors and checked the security cameras. To his frustration, the footage from the night before was scrambled with static, as if someone had tampered with the system. That was impossible. No one but him could access it, unless she had technology he didn't understand. Ross tightened his jaw. If she could mess with the cameras, then she was more dangerous than she looked. He began his search. He checked every maintenance hatch, every service tunnel, every shadow where she could hide. But the girl seemed to slip through the ship like a ghost. Now and then, he would find clues, a faint glow on the floor, a drop of blue fuel on a cargo box, the strange sweet scent drifting through the air. The ship felt different, quieter in some places, alive in others. It was as if she was watching him just as closely as he was hunting her. That evening, Ross decided to lure her out. He filled a small container with fuel and placed it in the hydroponics bay, where plants grew under warm, artificial light. He hid behind the tall green vines. Waiting, minutes turned into hours, until finally, he heard it, that same soft humming he'd heard before. It was closer now, weaving through the leaves like a song only she knew. She stepped into the light. For the first time, Ross could see her clearly. Her skin wasn't just shimmering. It seemed to ripple like liquid silver under the glow. Her eyes scanned the room, alert but not afraid. She moved with grace, her bare feet making no sound on the floor. She knelt by the container and dipped her fingers into the fuel, lifting the glowing drops to her lips. When she drank, her eyes closed, and a soft, relieved smile appeared on her face. Ross stepped out from behind the plants. "Stop," he said firmly. She froze, her hand still hovering over the container. Slowly, she turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "I'm not here to hurt you," he continued, "but I need to know why you're doing this." Her gaze didn't waver. Finally, she spoke. "My name is Lyra," she said softly. "And without this, I will die." Ross felt a chill run down his spine. He had expected an excuse, maybe a lie, but not something so direct. "Why my ship?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. "Because you are the only one who passed by," she replied, "and the only one who didn't hear me calling." Before Ross could ask what she meant, she placed the container back down and stepped backward into the shadows, and just like before, she was gone, leaving Ross standing alone, with more questions than answers, and the uneasy feeling that whatever calling she spoke of might be far bigger than a stolen drink. Of fuel. The hunt. Ross woke with a start. The sound was faint, but it didn't belong to his ship. It was a light tapping, like small footsteps running along the metal ceiling. He reached for his sidearm, his instincts on full alert. The last time he had seen Lyra, she had spoken calmly, but something in her eyes had warned him. She wasn't telling him everything. The fuel gauge showed another drop, not as big as before, but enough to keep him worried. She was still drinking it, even after telling him she needed it to survive. Ross didn't know if that meant she was desperate, or simply not afraid of him. He decided it was time to stop reacting and start hunting. He moved through the ship quietly, placing small motion sensors in narrow maintenance shafts. He sealed off unused rooms with coded locks. He even rigged the engineering deck with a harmless tripwire alarm. If she tried to pass, he'd know. Hours passed without a sign of her. The ship felt colder, the corridors seemed longer, and every shadow seemed deeper. Once, he thought he saw her reflection in the metal wall, but when he turned, the corridor was empty. She was too fast, too quiet, and then the first alarm went off. Ross ran toward Cargo Bay 2. The sensor light flashed red, but when he entered, the space was empty. Only a few scattered crates stood in the dim light. Then he heard it, a soft, slow breath coming from above. He looked up, and for a moment, his mind refused to believe what he was seeing. Lyra was clinging to the ceiling like a shadow, her silver hair hanging downward, Her violet eyes locked on him. She was upside down, balanced perfectly, as if gravity didn't matter. When she saw him looking, she didn't run this time. Instead, she let herself drop silently to the floor, landing without a sound. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said quietly. Ross tightened his grip on his weapon. "You're stealing my fuel, you're hiding in my ship, and I don't even know why you're here." Her gaze hardened. "If you knew, you would not let me stay." Before Ross could ask, another sound cut through the air, a low, distant hum that didn't come from the Star Wanderer's engines. Lyra's head turned sharply toward the sound, her body tense. "They found me," she whispered, and before Ross could demand an answer, she darted past him, disappearing into the shadows again, leaving him with one thought echoing in his mind. Who is they? The confrontation. Ross had been chasing shadows for 2 days. Lyra had vanished into the hidden veins of the ship. Maintenance shafts, crawl spaces, and access tunnels, even he rarely used. But that strange low hum they had both heard in cargo Bay 2 kept playing in his mind. If they were coming, he needed answers now, not later. He studied the ship's layout and thought about her movements. She liked quiet, warm places with low light and close walls. There was only one place on the ship that matched all of that: the hydroponics bay. It was warm, full of shadows, and carried a steady hum from the water pumps. If she needed to hide and recover, that's where she would be. Ross moved carefully, taking the side corridors so the floor panels wouldn't creak under his boots. When he reached the hydroponics bay, he didn't step inside right away. He listened. Through the glass door, he could hear the faintest sound, not the hum of the pumps, but the soft, almost musical rhythm of someone breathing slowly. He unlocked the door and slipped inside. Lyra was there, sitting cross-legged on the floor between 2 tall walls of green vines. A small container of glowing blue fuel rested in front of her. She didn't flinch when he stepped into the light. Instead, she looked at him with calm, tired eyes. "I thought you'd find me," she said quietly. Ross kept his voice steady. "You're going to tell me the truth now." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Lyra picked up the container and set it aside. "My people call it star nectar," she began. "Without it, we grow weak and our minds break." She touched her temple lightly. "But that's not why I'm here." Ross's brows narrowed. "Then why are you here?" Her eyes darkened. "Because they are hunting me." Ross took a step closer. "Who?" Lyra hesitated, then whispered. "The Valari," she explained in a low voice. "They are not just after me. They will destroy any ship that helps me, any captain who gives me shelter." Her gaze locked on his. "If you keep me here, you will not live to see your next port." Ross's jaw tightened. Part of him wanted to throw her off the ship right then. Another part didn't believe she was the danger she claimed to be. "You could have told me," he said. Her lips curved into the smallest, saddest smile. "And would you have believed me?" Before Ross could answer, the ship's console crackled to life. With a warning alarm, an unidentified vessel had entered long-range scanner range. Lyra's expression turned cold. "They're here," she said, and this time, Ross knew she wasn't lying. The Alliance. The alarm echoed through the ship like a cold warning. Ross rushed to the control deck, his boots striking the floor with heavy steps. On the main screen, a single red blip pulsed slowly, moving toward them through the black of space. Its speed was steady, deliberate. Whoever it was, they weren't in a hurry. They knew their prey had nowhere to run. Lyra followed silently, her bare feet making no sound. "They've locked onto your heat trail," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "It's too late to hide." Ross turned to her. "If you know so much, maybe you can tell me how to get them off my back." Her violet eyes met his. "You could hand me over, and they will let you go." Ross didn't answer. Her words were a test he could feel. He checked the fuel gauge. The numbers were still low, too low for a long run. Even with a full burn, the enemy ship would catch them before they reached the next jump gate. They needed another way. What do you suggest?" he asked finally. Lyra tilted her head. "We work together." Ross let out a humorless laugh. "Work together? You've been stealing from me since the moment we met." Her voice was steady. "I took what I needed to live, and now I'm offering you the same." She stepped closer, her presence oddly calm despite the danger. "I can take us through the veil," she said. Ross frowned. "The veil?" "A path between stars that no human can navigate," she explained. "It's invisible to your instruments, but I can hear it." Ross stared at her for a long moment. She was asking him to trust her completely, to follow a course only she could see through a space no human had ever charted. And if she was lying, it would mean death. But staying here, waiting for the Volari to close in, meant death for certain. "You take me through this veil," he said slowly, "and I'll make sure you survive to the other side." Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Then we have an agreement." The enemy blip on the screen moved closer. The seconds felt heavier with every tick. Ross sat in the pilot's chair, Lyra standing just behind him. Her hand rested lightly on the back of his seat, her eyes half closed as if listening to something far away. "Left," she said suddenly. Ross adjusted the course. "Now faster," she murmured. And just like that, the Star Wanderer turned away from the charted lanes and into the dark, unmarked space between the stars. Behind them, the Volari ship followed, patient, relentless, and closing in. The truth revealed. The Star Wanderer cut through the dark. No stars ahead, only a strange shifting haze that glimmered like liquid silver in the void. Ross had never seen anything like it. The ship's sensors struggled to read it, showing only static and error messages. "This is the veil," Lyra said softly, her voice almost reverent. "Once inside, they will lose us. If I can hold the path." Ross glanced at her. "If." She didn't answer right away. Her eyes closed, her breathing slow and steady. Then she spoke. "Because the veil listens. It listens to minds, to intentions, and it will only open to those who are pure in purpose." Ross gritted his teeth. "And if it doesn't open?" Her gaze met his, calm but heavy. "Then the veil swallows us, and we are never found again." The ship shuddered as they crossed the first strands of silver haze. Ross kept his hand steady on the controls. He noticed something then. Lyra's skin, normally faintly shimmering, now glowed brighter, almost pulsing in time with the veil's shifting waves. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "This is what I ran from." Ross frowned. "I thought you were running from the Volari." "I am," she said, "but not because they want me dead. They want me alive." Ross's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Lyra's hands curled into fists. "Because I am not just one of my people. I am their key." She stepped closer to the viewing glass, her reflection merging with the endless silver light outside. "My blood can open the veil to anyone, even those who seek to conquer," she continued. "If they capture me, they can bring fleets through here. Fleets that will burn worlds you've never heard of." Ross felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. The fuel theft, the hiding, the fear, it all made sense now. She wasn't just a stowaway, she was a living weapon. "And you brought them to my ship," he said quietly. Lyra's eyes softened. "I brought you a choice." Before he could respond, the proximity alarm screamed. On the scanner, the Volari ship had reached the veil's edge, its dark silhouette cutting through the haze. "They're coming in," Ross said. Sharply, Lyra stepped forward, her voice low but steady. "Then it's time to decide. Run with me, or watch them take everything." The final choice. The Volari ship pierced the edge of the veil. Its black hull seemed to drink in the silver light, moving with slow, steady power. Ross's hands tightened on the controls. If Lyra was telling the truth, one wrong decision here could do more than just his own life. Lyra stood behind him, her eyes glowing faintly. Her voice was calm, but there was a tremor beneath it. "If you hand me over, they will let you live." Ross glanced at her. "And if I don't?" "They will hunt us until one of us is gone," she said simply. He could see it in her face. She had already accepted that fate. The Valari ship sent a transmission. A deep mechanical voice filled the control deck. "Human vessel, surrender. The fugitive and you will be spared." Ross muted the channel. His jaw clenched for a long moment. There was only the hum of the engines and the strange whispering sound of the veil around them. He thought of the past 22 days, of the quiet journey that had turned into a chase, of silver hair in the dark cargo bay, of violet eyes that never begged, only warned, of the truth she had given him when she didn't have to. And he made his choice. Ross activated the engines to full burn. Lyra's eyes widened slightly as the ship surged forward, deeper into the veil. The Valari ship followed, its weapons charging. "Hold on," Ross muttered. Lyra stepped closer, placing her hands on the navigation panel, her voice becoming a steady chant in a language he couldn't understand. The silver haze outside began to shift, forming narrow streams of light that wove into a path only she could see. The enemy fired. Beams of dark energy sliced through the veil, but each one bent away, swallowed by the silver currents. Ross followed Lyra's voice, every turn sharper, every gap narrower. The Valari ship tried to match their path, and then, with a sudden flash, the silver currents closed behind them. The enemy was gone, lost somewhere in the endless folds of the veil. Silence filled the deck. Ross slowed the engines, the ship gliding into a calmer, star-filled space beyond. They were safe, at least for now. Lyra looked at him, her voice soft. "You risked everything for me." Ross gave a faint smile. "Guess I'm just not the surrendering type." For the first time she laughed, a light musical sound that didn't belong to the cold emptiness of space. Ross leaned back in the pilot's chair, the stars stretching ahead like an open road. "All right," he said. "Where to now?" Lyra's smile held both relief and something unreadable. Somewhere far, and somewhere free. And together they vanished into the dark, leaving only the memory of a choice that would echo far beyond one human ship.